creepiest, scariest, otherworldly paranormal. These are the words I would use to describe what I saw in the earliest hours of the morning on Highway 59 South, about halfway between Victoria and Goliad, Texas. I went out bar hopping with a guy friend in Victoria. We had gotten a late start that night, and so by the time the bars closed, we'd only had a couple of drinks each. So we weren't drunk, and I was driving my old Dodge Ram Charger. We headed home to Goliad. There's a little spot about halfway between the two towns where a restaurant and a gas station sat, near the entrance to some neighborhoods off the highway. There is a bridge at this spot, which was a 2-lane road back where this incident took place. So we were just cruising along, laughing and talking. When I passed the stores and approached the bridge, I slowed down just a little bit because I saw something standing on the side of the road, just where the bridge began. My friend was looking toward me, talking, when suddenly this thing literally jumped into the road, then jumped back to the side really quickly. It scared me to death because I just knew I was going to hit it, and I instinctively pressed the gas pedal, but it was all over before I had time to really hit the brakes. Aside from being surprised so suddenly, the real problem was what we saw. What I saw was built like a human, standing upright on 2 legs. It had long hair all over its body. I didn't see clothes on it, just hair, which looked to be a blondish red color as my headlights illuminated it. The jump from one side of the road and back was a huge jump. I don't suppose a human could do that, but who knows? The funny thing is that I said aloud to my friend, "Wow, did you see that?" And he was sitting there real quiet. He said, "Yeah, what the hell was that?" And that was it. We never said another word about it, and I never told anyone about it either. It just seemed so surreal, and I realized I would be accused of being drunk or crazy if I told anyone. So for years, I never thought about the creepy, hairy creature on the side of the road. I'm sad to say that my friend passed away not too long after that night, so I never discussed what we saw with him. I don't know why neither one of us spoke about it at the time or later. I think we were trying to find a way to process such a strange sight, so we quietly mulled things over to ourselves. I'm pretty sure that whatever I saw that night wasn't human. I'm also pretty sure I'll never know what it was. But there is a snapshot of it in my brain, of the way it looked when my headlights first shone on it. Tall, broad-shouldered, 6 feet tall, long blondish red hair all over its body. The memory will be there for the rest of my life. I hope I don't see that thing ever again. So this one time I was driving and had one of my mirrors out of alignment. It was bugging me, and there was a parking area, so I pulled off to adjust it. Passenger side mirrors on a truck are annoying sometimes because you keep having to walk around the nose till you get it where you want it. Anyway, I was being a little picky and was in no hurry, so I puttered around and adjusted all the mirrors. About 5 minutes into this, a cherry red Jeep pulled into the parking area and stopped about 20 feet in front of my bumper. This parking area was otherwise completely deserted. I barely paid attention and continued with my quest. A minute later, a man got out of the Jeep. The first thing that popped into my head when I saw him was Santa Claus on summer vacation. Now this was certainly unusual, but hey, what isn't? The guy started walking toward the right front corner of my truck, so I assumed he was headed somewhere past where I was parked. At this point, I was walking towards the seat to check my last mirror. It took me a second to realize that the man was standing there, next to my passenger door. He hadn't said a word or anything. He was just standing there, staring at the door, not moving, with an evilish smile on his face. I thought that this was definitely odd. I decided to fiddle with one of my mirrors until he left, so I did that for another few minutes. I then checked back and the Santa-looking man was still standing by my door. I was thinking to myself, is this guy waiting for me to open the door for him? Needless to say, even being the pretty liberal individual that I am, this guy's behavior was downright creepy. I then decided that my best and probably safest course of action was to just hop into the driver's side and leave. So I did just that. Acting as if I did not see the man at all, I pulled out, and there in my mirror, in my cloud of exhaust and dust, still stood Summer Santa. He didn't look like he even moved a muscle. I wasn't sure if he even ever blinked once. All I knew was that I was glad I got out of there.
We were leaving a wedding we had attended that was held about 3 hours from home. My boyfriend had stayed sober in order to drive us home. I was pretty wasted. As we were driving the dark country back roads to get back to the city, I was half dozing off. I remember squinting because there suddenly seemed to be bright headlights washing over us. And then my boyfriend, who was driving, started screaming at the top of his lungs. Full-on screaming like I've never heard him do before or since. It wasn't a loud, high-pitched screaming, but a deep-in-the-throat screaming that broke in and out and that left him hoarse. He swerved our car sharply to the side of the road, nearly into a ditch. All of it happened so fast. Somewhere in the midst of it, my eyes jolted open and I yelled, "What? What happened?" I was now fully awake. My boyfriend began explaining that he saw a truck coming full bore towards us in the dark and honestly thought we were going to die. I looked behind us. A long, straight road with no houses or streetlights. There was no sign of a truck or any kind of vehicle, no rear headlights on the road or any light from a truck's headlights, which we would have seen. We should have. And no sound of truck or car or anything. But he was shaking, and I initially brushed it off as him maybe falling asleep at the wheel, which is already scary in and of itself. We were on a narrow country road. There was no way a massive truck could have gone by us without hitting our car, and I don't remember feeling the rumble and vibrating of our car that would have happened if a truck had narrowly missed us, so I dismissed it. He still swears that he saw a massive truck coming towards us. However, as I think about it from time to time, I do remember a flood of headlights hurting my half-closed eyes just before my boyfriend freaked out.
I was on I-5 traveling south, getting ready to pass over the mountains just a few miles north of the way station. It was about 3 a.m. and I was driving my Corvette. It was a very foggy early morning with rain. The visibility was terrible. I went around a hairpin corner, and standing in the middle of my lane was a woman. She looked pale with scraggly black hair and was wearing a long white gown. She had the most dreadful look on her face. I will never forget it. This all happened in a split second. I made a quick decision to swerve. Luckily, I missed hitting her by inches, as she would have gone right through my windshield. I started panicking because there were 2 semi-trucks behind me, one in each lane. I knew this woman was not going to get out of the road. She didn't even flinch when I nearly hit her going 70 miles per hour. The corner was at Trout Creek, so I couldn't get out of my car to help her. It was way too dangerous. I called 911 and left the scene. 2 weeks later, I got a call. The Oregon State Patrol wanted to question me about what kind of truck I had been driving that night. I asked them if this was about the woman on the highway. They then told me that within the few moments I was on the phone with 911 that night, she had been hit and killed. They went on to explain that this woman had escaped from a mental hospital. The trucker that ran her over never stopped.